Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at energy fuels. It is time for another update, and today we will be discussing about the ongoing extension that is occurring even at this point to the downside, as well as the relevant resistance levels that we must break for a signal that this structure has indeed completed. Now, before we get there, I would like to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we are still tracking this idea of a 1-2 setup, where then we are looking to form the larger wave tree to the upside. Now, since this would be a wave tree, we would expect to reach the ideal target at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, and in this case it would be around the $129 level. If we fail to reach those levels within the actual structure, I would have to reconsider tracking this as an actual wave tree, and that is a bit of a warning sign because within this structure to the upside, we have already completed the wave 1, 2, and 3, which signals to us that most of the rally is already done. Now, we do still expect, even in that case, further extensions higher, especially as long as we hold here the areas of support, but getting in the fifth wave alone to the 138.2% extension from these levels is, while not impossible, quite unrealistic, a little bit improbable, and at times it does happen. Sometimes we do get quite wild extensions within the fifth wave, but it is not necessarily the highest probability scenario that we should be preparing for. And in that case, I do need to bring out a couple of other interpretations here onto the chart. And firstly, we have here the possibility of a 1-2 still, so we could still be tracking here a 1-2, and then a third wave unfolding, but within the wave 3, this would really be only the wave 1 up. So this would still be a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th, but it would be an initial wave 1, an internal wave 1 as part of the larger wave 3. We then get a correction in wave 2. This would be quite a deep retracement in that case, and then we would be looking for a third wave to be unfolding and take us to even higher prices. And in fact, this would probably be an even more bullish interpretation, because if we don't get within the third wave directly to the 138.2% extension to the upside of the wave 1, we wouldn't really be looking for a wave 4 correction. Sure, we would be looking for an even deeper retracement, quite likely, but considering how high we have already extended within this wave 3, or this structure to the upside in a 1, 2, 3, if we form here a 4th and a 5th, and this would be only the wave 1, and then we get a correction in a wave 2, well, within the third wave to the upside, we could expect targets, extensions far beyond any of the levels that we would even be tracking here internally, or rather externally within this wave 3 if we were to form it in a more direct fashion. And then that brings me to the other interpretation. And by the way, in all interpretations, I am still looking for an additional high as long as we hold this area of support. But that would be within an ABC structure, in which case we would have here an A wave up, B wave down, and then a C wave unfolding in this area. In which case, well, the wave C would even have the ideal target at the 100% extension of the wave A. So that would be the ideal target, not just a failure to reach the ideal target, which would be here for the wave 3. And that would bring me to the risk point, where this, from a large time frame perspective, could be a simple correction where we have a zigzag pattern in an ABC. So this could be a larger A wave down, B wave up, and then a C wave that could even take us to new all-time lows. Something like that could easily play out in the scenario of this forming something like an ABC structure. Now, unfortunately, we won't be able to tell much of a difference between a wave C or a wave 1 in this area. I do have to point out that I find them equally likely at this point to form, but both more likely than the wave 3 directly. And the point is that if this is indeed an ABC structure, well, we should be prepared for an even deeper retracement than in the scenario of a double 1-2-1-2 forming in this area, because I could even consider this ABC as part of a larger leading diagonal forming, where even to new all-time highs we could be looking for this being a wave 1, as part of a larger leading diagonal, and then we would be looking for a correction in a wave 2, but we could easily see those levels go even below the beginning of this entire uptrend, removing all progress, really all progress made in this area, we could easily get into a retracement in a wave 2 afterwards below even the $3 level, for example. But at this point, we aren't there yet. We are still looking for further extensions higher. And in this case, we can even move to the shorter time frame where, yeah, we are still tracking this correction in the wave 4. And we are at this point still tracking even the idea of an impulse, because on this chart it is possible. Yeah, we have here a wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th within the wave 3. So it easily works within the idea of an impulse, and then we would have here the correction in the wave 4. Well, this is really only applicable only as long as we hold here the 50% retracement, the $10.7 level. Where if we get a sustained break below the $10.7 level, well, I wouldn't necessarily move directly into a much more bearish scenario, but I would have to be tracking this pattern to the upside as a diagonal pattern, where this could still be a 1, 2, 3, but really within ABC structures all throughout. Yeah, ABC, ABC, and then ABC in the wave 4 here, and then ABC in the 5th wave to the upside. It could still work out, and it would allow us a slightly deeper retracement within this area in the wave 4, all the way down to the 61.8% retracement instead. And this isn't even the first time I mentioned this interpretation. This has been in the back of my mind ever since we have extended so far within this internal wave 5 to the upside. Yeah, we had this large extension. I have been considering the interpretation that this could instead be really a diagonal pattern forming within this area, where could easily consider this an ABC structure instead. But while it brings the downside of making it more difficult to track the 5th wave to the upside, it also brings the upside of allowing for a deeper retracement before invalidation, in which case, yeah, we would be looking at the $8.6 level, maybe even a bit below here. Since we have some structural support, yeah, a dip into those levels wouldn't be the end of the world for this scenario, because yeah, a sustained break is what actually invalidates scenarios and makes them much less likely than actually breaking them in a swift recovery, or with a swift recovery. Now, if we actually break even below the 61.8% retracement here within a sustained break, I would have to heavily consider that this entire structure has failed. And by the way, I do want to mention that this isn't a shift in the scenario of what we are tracking. This scenario to the upside could have easily been tracked as an impulse, and at this point it even still can. And it is a morphing in the market sentiment that has shifted the structure that would allow this to be tracked as a diagonal pattern, because yeah, this is easily able to be counted as a 5-wave move in the wave 1 and then a 5-wave move in the wave 3, yeah, easily. And even at this point I can do this. But even as you can see from a broader market perspective, there is a lot of bearishness right now. And yeah, if we end up breaking some certain levels of support, we need to be tracking different interpretations. And in the case of this chart, it wasn't a diagonal pattern that has been forming here all along. It is just a shift that we need to be tracking, since the market is morphing, the sentiment is changing, and yeah, there just is a lot of fear at this point, which we need to account for when allowing for the retracement within this area. Yeah, for which reason we can even keep here on the chart the 61.8% retracement, and yeah, if we break below the 50% retracement, we won't really be tracking an impulse forming in this area anymore. And yeah, even within the wave 5, we would be looking here at an ABC structure. But for now, both scenarios could still work out, and that takes me to the shorter time frame, where internally we have even been tracking already a possible bottom for a couple of attempts already, but clearly none of the resistance areas that we were tracking have been broken, and in that case, yeah, we can easily still expect further extensions lower. Now, even this internal 1, 2 that we were possibly tracking within this area, it wasn't the micro time frame, but it broke. Nothing too significant. It wasn't one of the high probability scenarios that we were tracking, but as we can see, we have actually extended lower from the resistance area that I have provided you in the previous videos. And even in the very last video I have provided you, I made a shift, a slight extension allowed within this movement to the downside. And at this point, I do have to say, this pattern is quite full. I don't really need any additional lows to consider this correction within the wave 4 complete. So at this point, I am prepared for a bottom at any time. I may even be eyeing here around the $12 level, where we have some structural support, which could trigger a more significant relief rally that could even shift into a break of relevant resistance levels within something like a 5-wave structure that could signal us that, yeah, this wave 4 could be done, or at least the larger part of it, where, yeah, it may be a wave A done, or it may be part of a large triangle that may be forming within this area. We don't know at this point, because, yeah, even right now we seem to still be pushing lower, only just now recovered ever so slightly. But from a large time frame perspective, yeah, this is it. This is what we are looking to have completed. We have a possible full count. Now, I do want to mention we will continue to track further downside, because at this point there is also no signal that we have indeed bottomed. So while we don't need any more lows, we need to see some signals, some evidence that we have indeed bottomed, and in that case I do need to watch out for some relevant resistance areas. And I do have to say, I do at this point, since we managed to extend so far within this push to the downside, even another extension possible here. So I could argue that this wave 4 has never actually completed, and even this wave 3 has never actually completed, where I could consider that this movement to the downside is still part of the larger wave 3. And this is the relevant area of resistance that we need to track for the most relevance. Yeah, we are considering here a wave 1 down still, and a wave 2 up, and then this as the third wave down, where in the wave 3 I'm looking here at something like an ABC structure, within which in the wave C I'm looking for a 5-wave move. So let me add here a small ABC, and then in the wave C we are looking here at a wave 1 down, a wave 2 up, a third wave down, a fourth wave up, and then a fifth wave down. I won't bore you with the details of how we can consider the count full. I am telling you clearly, I have even more than one way in which I could consider the count full, for which reason I don't really need to see this scenario, this interpretation play through in this movement down. Yeah, I don't need to see this 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th to play out. This is what we are tracking for a signal that we have indeed bottomed. We want to see a break actually above here the resistance levels within this area, and in that case for this wave 4, yeah, we want to see the break of the resistance levels for this wave 4, which is between the $13.10 all the way up to the $14.7 at the 61.8% retracement. Now, as we move lower, since clearly, yeah, this structure still seems to want to extend lower, as we move lower, we would need to extend this area of resistance along with it, but it shouldn't change too much at this point. Clearly, if it moves, for example, to the next level of the Fibonacci retracement, the 50% retracement, sure, it would be more significant, but right now we will keep it where the current pricing is, and yeah, clearly it is going to extend it. Even at this point it is pushing lower, but you get my point, you get the idea that of the resistance levels that I am tracking here. And then I do want to mention, even if we form here a 4th and a 5th, I don't need this to be a third wave. I don't need to get here a 4th and a 5th to complete the larger structure, because even then I could argue that I may have a full count in a scenario of something like a WXY, in which case this would have been an ABC as part of a wave Y instead of a wave 3. So it is rather difficult to track all the scenarios that could occur here within the short time frame, the nano time frame here, which is why I would rather suggest that you should also zoom out from a larger time frame perspective and watch the larger area of support in green. Now I'm telling you, we don't need any new lows, so at any point I could see a bottom forming. Yeah, even within this movement to the downside, I am very close, even on the 15-minute time frame, to actually seeing a full structure, because I could argue this is 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th unfolding. Now within this wave 5 we may need a few more lows, yeah, 1 or 2, but once that is done, really it is on a very small time frame, so 1 or 2 more lows within this area could be microscopical changes. But once that is done, I really could be looking for a bottom. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.